Hey, we're live. For anyone watching the VOD, hello. You guys are going to be the only ones who usually catch this because I don't think anyone's. It's alright. I don't think anyone who's live or who watches live is usually here minute zero. Nice. I guess I'll hit up the Discords. Hi friends. Am live. Duck Boy in the chat. Hi friends in chat in live. Wait, hi friends live. Come through. Should have had lunch before this. Oh well. Well, I guess while we wait for people to trickle in, how you doing today? Now, okay, you guys should be able to hear Heine now. I had to flip a switch. Let me know. Let me know, Duck Boy, if it just changed right now.
I'm like super quiet. Maybe. Yeah, I'm trying to listen and talk to myself. There it is.
Cool. Do I need to turn him up? I can turn him up.
Sweet, that works for me.
But
good enough.
You guys can hear him. That's a good start.
Hello, hello. Andrew said poop.
No, poop you, Andrew. Poop you. Yeah, I have a busy day. This is a kind of a last minute thing that we decided to do. That was pretty interesting.
Yeah, fun little turn of events in the community, it seems.
Yeah, and I think it's worth exploring because it's something that I feel like a lot of people don't have the proper insight to. Why we don't have the proper insight, I don't know. Maybe it's just not well communicated. I think, I think communication could always be better.
Yeah, it'd be a matter of, I mean, people not coming into the situation, like dealing with the situation firsthand. And people that do have the situation aren't necessarily vocal about it because, I don't know, maybe they're like ashamed or feel weird. But it's good. I mean, obviously in the keyboard stuff, you know, communication is key, it seems. Because everyone wants updates on shit like daily.
Yeah. Let's see. Let me see if I can.
This is 7.5. Nice.
And no, is this the right one? Oh, it doesn't let me have any of those controls. Hello, what up, Wix? Thanks for catching my stream for the first time that you can. Yeah, this is a different stream. A lot of you guys who's been following some of my content know that I like to do, like for my Monday, Wednesday streams, I've been liking this idea of having different kind of segments, like the cool wall, maybe a segment where I build or test stuff, a segment where I talk or interact via, doing the, man of interest on our custom keyboards or our keycap designer, stuff like that. This is another segment that I'm kind of piloting / going forward with, called the Hot Swap Hot Seats, which is on some of my streams you guys may see. For a segment, I'll have a guest with me and we'll talk about things and stuff, possibly relating to keyboards. Oof, just lost the Heine. Heine has left a call. Heine is hot, I agree. Thanks, Wix, for the follow, as well as Arslock. Oof, Titan with the tier 1 sub. Thank you. Got DDoS. Ooh-wee. Got the shoulder and the arm. Is this the way I need to move? Be back in here? Yeah. I guess I'll go, I'm gonna go fix things. Huh. Heine's Discord desktop Discord client just died a Reno. Need cheesy elevator music for this slide. Ooh, that'd be good to add. He's rebooting right now, everyone, so he'll be back with us soon. Soon indeed, Reno. U.S. government didn't like the pic he took. Hopefully it's not a server outage on his side, because he said that might be the issue. His Discord is dead. Oh, wait.
There we go. There's something.
Nice.
Where's my video? Where's my video? I gotta join back in. All right. There it is. Okay. Yeah, my Discord just died for some reason.
Hey, no worries. It happens to... Oops, wrong one. The best of us.
That was quick. Yeah, dude, it's like, I swear, at least once a week, once every like 3 or 4 days, something goes up with Discord for like 10 or 15 minutes.
Oh, weird. Damn.
I don't know, it's a server thing, I'm assuming. But they're really good about like keeping track of it and fixing it. So.
Yeah. It's usually not too bad. Let's see, let me check my server. My server has not given me... Meeseeks has not updated everyone yet, annoyingly. I'll wait till
It takes like 10 minutes.
Anywhere between 2 to 15 is my experience, which is so weird. So weird.
I'm thinking they do like... Maybe it's like a rolling every 10 minutes that checks
instead
of like constantly. Because that would probably destroy the Twitch API or something like that, or the Discord API.
All of those API pulls.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my guess too. But it's just so weird how like inconsistent it can feel. Because I've had times where like a minute later it just pops, Me6 just pops like a YouTube or Twitch update. But then sometimes it'll be like 15 minutes later. Oh yeah, there's a thing that's happening.
I use it in my Discord I have. And yeah, it's the same thing. Except I call mine Big China.
It's one of those realities of life.
Always listening and watching.
Okay. I guess we'll chat around until I see that little see the bot ping the alert squad. Even though I feel like most people who wanted to be alerted should already be alerted at this point. Not already.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm pretty excited for my upcoming streams because I just got from a friend of mine 2 new capture cards to try out.
So, sick.
So now I'm going to have 2 of my cameras. Instead of, like, usually I just have it hooked up to my overhead bench camera. But now I can have, like, instead of a webcam, I can upgrade this and actually have a good.
So that's how you don't, it's not like a USB to PC type thing?
So, yeah, so these are mini HDMI, or they have HDMI inputs. So for my nice cameras, I will do mini HDMI to HDMI, and then this is USB 3 to 3. So I have the USB 3 data rate.
So it's not like you connect it directly up to your computer.
Mm-hmm. This is like the interface in between.
Cool. Nice. Yeah, I didn't really know that was a thing. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so I have one of those for my overhead, and then now I can have one of those for like this webcam, so it'll be a nicer instead of using a USB webcam and stuff. And I can just have another one set up for when I do the cool board without having to move it back and forth.
You finally ironed your curtain.
Yeah, I finally ironed my curtain. Looks way nicer now.
Awesome, good.
Wix, what has happened lately? Did I move into a workshop? Well, several months ago, I just put this in my room because, like, hey, I need to, like, do stuff in my room that involves keyboards all the time instead of, like, on my computer desk. So I wanted to have an area to work on all of that, and I feel like just, have a small little cheapy workbench where I can have, like, shelving, more cheapy shelving, and just stuff around.
Yeah, having the shelving and the pegboard and stuff, that's super useful. I need to get pegboard for down here still. Working on it. Slowly but surely. I also designed up a workbench for like my garage, so I can put my miter saw on something now too.
Mm-hmm.
Just takes time.
Yeah, always just takes time, and there's never enough hours in the day.
Very sad time to be alive.
Okay, Joe says the bot has pinged, and the bot has indeed pinged, so hello everyone to the first episode of the Hot Swap Hot Seats, featuring Hineybush. This is a segment I'm doing that's going to be about having a guest and talking about stuff. Not always necessarily an interview, but sometimes can be just a discussion. And today I wanted to talk about something that I wouldn't say has rocked the community, but something that the community has just become more aware of, which is the issue of the Shark PCB. The original post was posted yesterday by Steve of Wood Cables. But before we get into that, the reason I have Heine on today is Heine has run into a similar situation in the past with a board that some of you may remember called the the Dank. That is it right there. It was when he was working very closely with a Cartel ortholinear board, and really recently the Shark PCB, which is also a 40% ortholinear, has ran into a bit of a snafu, per se, with the whole situation. And, you know, I don't come from a software background with, you know, open source and all of this and that, but I know Heine has at least encountered a similar situation, so I wanted to bring him on to add his commentary and hopefully help me understand what's going on. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, software side, I don't know. I'm not super well versed on either because I do more hardware, but I actually, like, my real job is open system architecture, open source architecture stuff. And it's really, like, picky how, like, the legal side of it all. We had, like, a whole team to do that. Like, literally just to verify that you're using, like, you can't say something's conformant or compliant or you get sued unless it actually is.
Oh, wow.
Like, it's a big deal. But yeah, we ran into a similar issue with the Dank / Contra, whatever we turned it into. And it was fine, it worked. But yeah, like the initial play of it was Dank, like DANCK, like it's the Dank Plonk, however you say it. But yeah. Jack posted that open letter thing, and like we didn't even know about it instantly. And like the community was like, "Hey, look at this thing that Jack posted on Reddit," because he emailed us, and like I didn't see it till probably a half hour after. But yeah, that was interesting. But I mean, whatever, it happens. Yeah, I mean that was obviously a kind of a joke on the plank, but at the same time, it's like we're making a 4x12 ortho board. Like, so what? I don't know. That was my kind of thought process at the time. But I mean, I get where both sides are coming from for sure at this point, especially with the Shark, because that was designed more to fit with plank stuff, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yes.
Like
same mounting holes.
Because like the Contra and stuff, like that had 19.05 or 750 mil switch spacing, and the plank has 19. So like the grid and everything is, is a little different. So the mounting points in the case will be different. Which I guess is kind of their way of making it somewhat proprietary, yeah. To defend their own brand and to have their stuff only. Which I don't blame them at all. Like there's a big difference between having something open source and then having dimensions available.
Yeah.
It's not the same.
Yeah, for sure. So one thing I do want to get to, because we are going to, many of you might have seen the thread on Reddit has since been very, very edited in the OP. I have a saved earlier OP, which I will read through. We'll all talk about. I have it on screen.
Can you actually send me that too?
Let me share that. Let me share that to you.
I just have removed it, but that doesn't do edits.
Right. Put it on users with the link can comments. So then if you want to highlight something when we go through it, as we talk about it,
that's a good idea. Cool.
It'll happen. And hold on, everyone. I need to switch to this screen real quick because the layout will mess up otherwise. Bam.
Yeah, that's right. I figured you'd do that.
Is that okay? Looks like you just joined in for that.
Yep.
Cool. So we'll go over that in a moment. But I do want to start with, at least from what you understand initially, before we really dig into these posts, what do you think is the main difference between how this went down compared to how the Dank now Contra went down? Yeah,
so the reading through the initial Shark stuff, like it was made basically to make that sort of idea of a board. It's, I mean, a meme kind of board or a like a novelty thing anyway, I think. But the goal was to make it more available in Brazil, in South America, whatever. Yes, it was designed and kind of put together here in the U.S., but that's okay. Yeah, like they explained in the initial post, like it's really hard to get something imported into Brazil like cost effectively, I guess, because of the taxes and like the import fees and stuff. So I think that's completely valid that they want to have their own kind of version, um, which is cool. Like definitely do that. But at the same time, the difference between us was we were just like, hey, this is a $30 kit. It's bare bones. It's literally 2 PCBs. Yeah. The initial, we didn't really mention, like, it's not affiliated with OLKB. I think that was their big deal with us at first was people see, oh, dank, that sounds like Plank, like OLKB. This must be an OLKB product. Like, I don't necessarily think everyone would think that, but certain people could definitely think that, which makes sense. Like, I can fully see that. Yeah, and the whole idea of how QMK wants to, like I said earlier, like there's a whole big side with like the language used when it comes to open source stuff, open system stuff, and they want to use the language of powered by QMK, or I think QMK powered. They actually have a page on their website, which is really good if you want to look at that because they have like the logos and stuff you can use. So yeah, like that was when I think the focus shifted to them kind of having this as QMK powered instead of, hey, it's a QMK keyboard. It's a QMK powered keyboard, a QMK powered PCB. So it's not like QMK or OLKB is endorsing it exactly, you know? My camera's not centered. My head's not centered either. That's a little better. So yeah, I mean, I think that's where that kind of started to become a thing. And like ever since my stuff I've been doing, like I think the initial one actually was the G80 1800 PCB I made a while ago. And in like the GCAC interest checker group I think I put like QMK PCB, and Jack was like, hey, that's not how you should say it. It should be QMK powered by QMK or whatever. So yeah, like that's a big deal. It's like the language used to suggest affiliation or official sponsorship. Like the Clue board is an official QMK PCB, I'm pretty sure, because of how Scully went through that with Jack, I think.
Oh, so I think Scully's one of the 3 people leading the
yes,
QMK project too. So
yeah, so like if you go on like the QMK website, all supported keyboards, and then like that's like every keyboard made like with QMK, and then there's a way to do keyboards powered by QMK. So like these are I think the official stuff. So like the Plank, Prionic, Ergodox, ClueBoard, CluePad, and Atrius. I think those are like official, quote unquote. I'm not sure. Someone could definitely tell me otherwise. But yeah, it's like those are like, hey, that's a QMK board. Like Plank, oh, that's an OLKB board. Whereas like like my H87A, which is in group by the way, so buy a couple. That's not like, oh, that's a QMK PCB. It's just QMK is the firmware running on it. Yeah, there's a difference there.
Not gonna lie, sounds pretty. Sounds very tedious, almost like.
Yeah.
On how it's worded and how it's involved. Because so, for example, for your board, your H87A group I'm running now, you can't say it's QMK powered, but you can say it runs on QMK.
No, I think QMK powered is the right way to say it. Let me actually try to find the right page on Gitbook or whatever. Let me find it. There is a way to put it. Keyboard guidelines. No. It's somewhere on here. It's something with the licensing, and how they have it set up. Let me see if I can find it. Glossary, testing, keymap overview.
And so those of you who are joining us and maybe wondering why we're talking about this is because
here it is.
Directly pertains to the Shark PCB, which we'll be going more deeper into in a moment. Okay, so qmk.fm/powered.
Yeah, so this is, if you scroll down a little bit, you have like the QMK trademark. So this is like QMK firmware is trademarked. The logo is trademarked by Jack. And then anyone's entitled and encouraged to use the logo and then the terms QMK firmware, powered by QMK, or like running on QMK, compatible with QMK. And then you can see the three things. One, it doesn't imply that QMK or its contributors endorse or make the keyboard. So the fact that H87A is powered by QMK does not mean that Jack says, hey, this is great for QMK. You have to contribute the keyboard's main, I guess, configuration back to the master via the pull requests and that kind of system. Okay. And then you have to link to the QMK website or repo on your page, on their product page. So yeah, like in my product page, I think I have, because I update like my tree on my personal GitHub a little more often than I would push to the main QMK repo. So I think I have my personal one right now, but that links to the official one. So I think that might be okay. If not, I'll switch it up. But yeah. So yeah, those are basically the kind of guidelines you have to use. And if you don't, you do those things, like they'll probably be like, hey, you should do these things.
Okay.
And then there's like logos and stuff you can do. But yeah, like Gondolandrim. I don't know how to say that. Yeah, basically saying it is saying you're allowing your board to show affiliation by saying, hey, QMK runs on this, but it's not a QMK designed board. It's not designed by the QMK people. It's not designed by OLKB.
Okay, so the main thing in terms of licensing and quote-unquote licensing and how you say it is, from what I can understand, the implication on whether or not the QMK team is behind it or if it's just something that runs QMK.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That's very, very important in this conversation, I believe.
You have a car in your garage you're working on. It's like a Ford or a Toyota or something. You put a Chevy engine in it. That doesn't make it a Chevy vehicle. It just means it's powered by a Chevy motor. I guess kind of like that. That'd be a good little quick
LS swap.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you put an LS in your 240SX. That doesn't make it a Chevy car. Doesn't make it a GMC. Just means you have a Chevy motor and it's powered by Chevy. It's not an exact metaphor, but same kind of idea, I guess.
Okay.
But that doesn't obviously, like, you don't need a license to do that.
Yeah,
you don't need to have Chevy permit you or whatever to do it.
That definitely helps a lot. I think with that, I think it's a good time to get into the post itself.
Yeah.
So I have the saved posts right here, and I'll read through the OP, so everyone bear with me. So this is from after the first edit, which is the edit from, this is by Steve of Wood Cables. Steve from Wood Cables has posted. I'm putting
before we get into it real quick. Dead Encryption just said, I mean QMK is open source, isn't it, in the chat? Yes, QMK is open source, but that doesn't mean you can freely use it however you want, because there are open source to apply with.
Okay, there we go.
When you use the product, when you use QMK. It doesn't mean, like, and the guidelines are written out kind of right there. It doesn't mean you can do whatever you want with it. You can if you do it, by yourself. But if you're selling stuff, it should comply with how QMK wants it to be. How these guys have worked. The amount of, like, look at all the keyboards that are used. Look at all the hard work they've put in to get this to the point it's at. It's like, yeah, exactly. Yeah, open source doesn't mean anyone. It's just free to use.
Open source does not
anyone
mean,
can contribute to it, but that's the whole pull request. The pull request system. You can put whatever you want in. That doesn't mean they're going to say yes or no, or that doesn't mean they're going to allow it. Yeah. You can get into. I don't really know exactly which license they use. Let me try to find that. But yeah, it's up to the licensing and how they want to do it. They do have a code of conduct. Here's the license. It is okay. So the GNU GPL. Okay, yeah. Read through that, and that'll give you a basic understanding of how you can actually use it, basically.
So for a lot of people who may not, always be recognizable, because open source does not necessarily mean free. It means like free with terms, and there are certain terms.
Free to use it as long as you follow their rules.
And what those rules are can depend on whatever open source project. I know, Input Club also has all their stuff open source, but the same thing. They have their own terms on how you're going to use their stuff. Same with QMK, and the list goes on everywhere in the software industry. So let's get to this post by Steve of Wood Cables. This is after the first edits, so that's why it has the edit on top. This is the most recent one the farthest one I was able to save. Edit, I'm putting the text back up, but please refrain from any disparaging remarks. Business-related issues are fine to discuss. It is with sadness that I must announce the termination of the Shark PCB group buy. Below, I will discuss the logic behind the decision and also some events that have transpired which led to that decision. Initially, this project was an idolization of my Brazilian partner, Gondolinarum, a Brazilian electronics engineering PhD student, to bring the mechanical keyboard. Yes, Gondo. Hobby to his country. In Brazil, there are no 40% keyboards available, and he wanted to try the layout. Unfortunately, due to abusive taxes of the government, a plank was out of the question, so he set himself up to make his own design of the ortho 40% layout to be distributed in Brazil. When I saw the project, I immediately recognized it had potential, especially because Gondo wants no profit from it at all, and he plans on making community-driven PCBs filling voids like the Contra and GH60 did. Open source and accessible stuff that had the latest features. So, I funded the prototypes with my own money, and he helped with the design part. Here in North America, where I am located, and where the planned group buy was going to take place, there's only one option for a board with this layout, the plank. Starting about a few weeks ago, someone of the QMK community came to us and expressed their concerns for our project. By the way, we will go over who this was and their post about it as well. It is publicly known, but we'll go over that when we get to his post, which I did save. Where was I? Okay. Words like morality and clone were mentioned. The concern from this QMK team member was that we were going to copy the plank firmware and just flash it onto the Shark. Obviously, that's something that we never planned on doing, especially since we designed the matrix in a way that differentiates us from the plank. In short, we would develop our own firmware, and the design is 100% original. It is also worth noting that... that's fine. We're noting the firmware used by the plank is covered under a license that allows redistribution/modification as long as credit is given where credit is due. That's the GNU General Public License V2 or higher, which Heine mentioned.
That's what QMK uses, yeah.
Okay.
And to touch on the concern from the member was that they're going to copy it and just use it on the Shark. That could be done, but yeah, like it says, that's not the plan. If you have different pin assignments and stuff within QMK to the controller, it's not as simple to do that. But yeah.
So, it was at the time I had a discussion with my partner on the project, Gondo, regarding the process in which to move forward. We discussed plans, concerns from OLKB, but ultimately decided to go ahead with a quotation for assembly because, again, no copyrights or trademarks had been infringed upon. All parts and hardware were licensed under open source guidelines, which we did discuss and we'll go over again. Fast forward to this week, when then again our design was labeled as a plank copy by a big maker. My partner reached out to Jack over at OLKB directly to clear things up and to make sure we're not stepping on anyone's toes. Now we know the whole thing that happened with the Contra, before named the Dank. Jack voiced his concerns, we voiced ours. During the discussion, the word clone was thrown around again. Jack's first concern was our list of features, which were based upon community desire, were questioned as being a copy of the plank's features. Sure, we share the same technology that has existed long before either of our projects. Besides, we offered things the plank didn't, and the plank had things we didn't. Being the plank a prominent product in the community, and it has all possible features QMK can offer, specifically because Jack also owns QMK. So adding features to our product would inevitably approximate us from the plank. The second problem is the Shark is an open source project. In Jack's words, open source can hurt the community, and OLKB, because of big manufacturers, specifically those based in China, tend to ignore the CC and GPL license and flood the market with cheap knockoffs. We all know this to be fact. Gondo has experience with electronical design and manufacturing and is aware of these things happen. But there's nothing much we can do. The open source philosophy is a big part of this project, and we want to keep it that way. The biggest issue from Jack was that the Shark mounting holes conformed to plank cases and plates and didn't offer anything new. This was an intentional decision by us. First, because we acknowledge that the plank is a great product and holds the market share of customers, including myself. Yes, I own several of them. So, we were trying to do the community a favor by saying, quote, if you have plank parts, our PCB will work with it, end quote. Similarly, with the PCB, the plank hardware is covered under a license which states anyone is free to copy/redistribute or to modify/build upon and give credit where credit is due. The unjust criticism here is that we do not sell any plank cases/plates. Check the Creative Commons Attribution Share Alike 4.0 license for further reading. And second, when Gondo started the project, he needed to design this PCB to fit a case, and the plank's parts were freely available in OLKB's parts repository and all licensed to be freely used. Last, Morality and community reputation was brought into question. We don't want to be known as the copying guys, as we see it. Offering an alternative to the plank was not hurting the community. There was, and still is, a hole that needed to be filled, and the Shark was going to do that job. In any case, we don't want our reputation tarnished by the community by word of mouth, despite all the Shark's features being based on feedback from the community. Though we do not view the Shark as a copy, OLKB can label it as such and the word will spread like wildfire. That is the main reason we are abandoning this group buy. We aim to make the Shark an alternative. If you read this far, thank you for your time. A lot of you may know me for my wood cable business and know that I'm not someone trying to do things that would be considered negative within the community. While I enjoy this hobby, I'm also trying to have supplemental income. What better way than to combine your hobby with money earned? Isn't that what most people look to achieve? So right before we start talking about the quote itself, let's go forward. The Shark is moving on. Now we have future information that is going to be different. There's going to be a new PCB as far as we understand.
Good. I'm glad.
There has been some reconciliation between Steve and Jack of what we don't know. That's still private. But all we know is the Shark will continue, but in order for it to continue, it must have a new PCB.
Yeah. Or change features and stuff, which, I mean, that's kind of a weird way to think of it, of having the same features. Like, one, it's a keyboard. A lot of the keyboards that are using the QMK firmware these days, like, they have the in-switch LEDs, they have RGB underglow, they have some of them with the STMs, like they do like the speaker and stuff, and the rotary knobs. Like, saying that it uses the same features, I don't think is a very good way to accuse it of being a copy or a clone, because every keyboard uses, like, okay, so if someone wants to make a 10 keyless keyboard and it has the same format as another 10 keyless keyboard, and hey, look, it has the same features, it has RGB underglow, it has in-switch LEDs, hey, look, it's a clone. Like, I don't see that being a thing. I don't know. That's questionable, I think. And the other thing he says is, yes, the Planks parts are all freely available on the OLKB parts repo to use for dimensions and stuff. So why not make it compatible with a case that you can 3D print? Like, the step files and the STL files are there.
So here's the big thing for me. So when I first read this the other day, so here's my take as a common person who doesn't really know that much. Okay, under the assumption everything is open source and everything that already exists is open source and has guidelines for the license, and under the assumption that everything that is being made follows those open source guidelines, what's the actual issue then?
I see it from both sides for sure. One, from us also having a play off of the plank and having that whole fiasco, and then me as like someone who makes stuff that doesn't want someone to like rip off what I make and make it for cheaper or what have you, because it's definitely possible. I think it's more of a matter, I think with this, of like Corb said, it's a matter that OLKB sells these PCBs and you can buy just the PCB. Yeah, your order would get to the bottom of that 600 some order queue on their website, but I mean, you'll get it eventually. But this would be an alternative to that, which I don't think is a bad thing. Yeah. If this is going to a different country, to Brazil only, to South America only, then why the hell not? I don't know.
Well, this was also available internationally. The main target is, of course, to Brazil, so Gondo can get his own 40%. But
because Titan here said it was going to be Brazil only in the chat. So if that's the case, then that's not a big deal, right? I don't know, but I mean, it's a very fine line, and it's kind of I guess you could kind of call it a shame for it to be the QMK guys to have the final say, because part of the problem is, like, if we'll get into it more down below, but say you submit a pull request and you get your stuff added to the QMK repo, so then it has to follow the QMK guidelines, of course, and if they don't want that, then they're not going to accept it, which means it's not going to be on the main QMK repo, which means it's not going to fall in line with the supported, with like how you have to have it if you want to say it's like a QMK programmable keyboard.
Right, right.
Which is kind of like I don't know. That's interesting.
So at least based off of Steve's post, which there are other responsive posts, which we'll also cover because I think they're very important to this conversation. He does mention a lot about Jack and the plank, and for those who may know, Jack Humbert, wonderful person by the way, very nice person to talk to. Mm-hmm. He owns and operates OLKB, and he also co-owns and operates QMK. Right. So a lot of people may not realize there's kind of a clash of double interests where he's kind of represented in both. But which is clash. Not only a clash, but he has a vested interest by both. But yes, I think the main issue that maybe Steve didn't get across or isn't getting across well is it's kind of hard sometimes to differentiate which hat Jack is wearing when he's saying you can't do this. Is he saying, you can't do this because I think this is an OLKB thing, or you can't do this because I don't think you're using the open source license correctly?
And as Steve said, Jack was super supportive of the project. And like it says, the Brazil group buy is still going on, but it looks like the international one is the one that was
It has to be, killed. The PCB has to be changed.
Yeah. So it looks like the accessibility for the idea to Brazil is still going on, which is really good. I like that. I'm happy about that. Okay, but yeah, so I can see it now more of the international people that do, I guess, have a better access to the board. Yeah, okay, yeah, I can see that, yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. So I guess the last thing before we start reading some more posts is, at least from your knowledge, why do you think they would get approval as long as they needed to change the PCB? What do you think these changes may need to entail to be... compliance?
I don't know. I mean, it's not necessarily as I said, they weren't just flashing the plank firmware on. So I'm assuming the pin out to the traces was different because that all needs to be assigned in the firmware. And then as far as feature set, like I said, I don't know what they're gonna have to change and adjust. Maybe it's the controller used because I know they use an STM32 on the plank. Maybe they'll have to go back to an Atmega, which is a little more basic, but that's the exact same thing. I'm not sure what they would have to change. I mean, it's a matter of what kind of features they want, really.
Mm-hmm.
The plank is the end all be all when it comes to, if you want to add more shit, if you want to connect a couple together, you can do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, exactly.
So that's I think that's the only thing for maybe me and a lot of other people. If they got the okay of once they changed the PCB, what does that entail to be compliant? Which means what in the original PCB wasn't per se, which I guess we won't know until the final one is until the final one is designed and we compare. We won't know. But until that, let's go through because there's a lot of great posts detailing further from Jack Humbert of OLKB and QMK, from Mac Merlin, who is the QMK community ambassador. So he's
also new to the QMK team.
He's 2 months now.
We talk
2-3 months now.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's pretty new to the QMK team, but he's been onboarded as their community ambassador, which I think he's been doing pretty good at. He's very, very PR friendly. Scully Days, one of the also co-runners of the of QMK.
He's a clueboard guy.
He's a clueboard guy. He also did a pretty good post about this as well as Gondo, the PCB designer. So those are the different posts that we'll be going through. First, let's look at Mac Merlin's response. TLDR, expletives. Why can't we all just be friends and buy more keyboards? I agree with that point.
I wish, dude.
I wish.
Give me money to buy keyboards.
So Merlin has wrote, I am the unnamed QMK team member. See, we talk about it. There, I outed myself. All right, please bear with me as I throw out my thoughts and opinions regarding this whole matter. First,
from that, Merlin is the one who expressed the concern of it being a clone and or, what's the other word he used? Where's it at? I lost it. Clone. Yeah. And
I think she brought up morality.
Yes. Yeah. Morality of
cloning, I guess.
The same as the plank.
Which,
I don't think it's moral because the layout sucks, but that's just.
But let's Do you think? So I think Mark's a pretty. His name's Mark. He's just a pretty reasonable and pretty smart guy. Do you think he made that line without knowing like the feature set, or do you think he believes that it's a layout thing that makes it a clone?
Because
I don't know. I think that knowledge definitely changes the that sentence, right? That changes a lot of what people may mean. Because, for example, if I built up two 60% tray mount PCB keyboards with different PCBs, are they clones of each other?
Or I mean, the word clone is tossed around so much in the keyboard world because, like I said, there's only so much you can kind of do with a keyboard. Is everything been a clone of an OTD? Are 10 keyless boards clones of Cooler Masters? I mean, it's tough because, like, a lot of people, they'll see an ortho board and they'll think, oh, it's a Plank knockoff, because the Plank is very well known, but it's not like as far as I know, I mean,
do we have to start saying, oh, that's a Plank? Oh, that's a POS machine knockoff.
Yeah. It's like, is the layout owned by someone? Is the layout trademarked?
The layouts cannot be trademarked or owned.
Yeah. You can't do that. So it's like, but the thing is the Planks, and maybe even like the Prionic, even to an extent, being so tied to that layout, kind of makes it a weird kind of fine line with, oh, that's a 4x12 ortho board, just like a Plank is, and then it's instantly connotated to being like a Plank.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like Jane V2, which is sitting right here in front of me, that's just a 10 keyless board. It's not like it's copied off of anything else or cloned of anything else. I don't know. I think the word clone is very
misused.
Detrimental. Yes, misused, detrimental. A clone is like a 1-for-1 copy. That's like literally what a clone is. If you like, so I could see it being a clone if it is in fact a 1-of-1 copy of the Plank PCB, which it seems like it's not. If the Plank PCB Gerber files and stuff were online and someone decided to go and make that from Elecro or JLC and have it made, then maybe it would be a clone. Then it would be literally the exact same files. But another word to use is a knockoff.
Mm-hmm.
And once again, knockoff is a questionable word to use because what are you trying to knock off? Okay, the layout's the same. Does that mean it's a knockoff? No, it just means it has the same layout. Does it do the exact same 100% thing? It might. That doesn't mean it's a knockoff because it's a keyboard. There's only so many things you can do with a keyboard, right?
Yeah, so definitely why I wonder, where Mac Merlin was coming from with that statement, to Steve.
Quality is another question for it because OLKB stuff is very high quality for what it is.
Yeah.
But does that mean it should be the only one available? That's a big question. Yes, you could pay for something that is the same layout, knowing it's not OLKB or knowing it's not from X manufacturer or Y manufacturer, and it could be a worse quality.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean it's a knockoff. It just means it's lower quality. It's tough. I mean, but knockoffs do exist. Don't get me wrong. Like mentioned, actually further down in the Merlin stuff, I think, like the Melody 96.
Yeah, let's go in order of this post. So with all that in mind, let's talk about Merlin. Let me read through his post. First, my direct involvement with the matter. I first spoke with Steven, 84 Wood Cables, regarding him solder some SMD components. That led to talking about the Shark PCB. From a brief description he gave, I immediately thought a plain copy, in which he jokingly replied, "Yeah, for a lack of a better term," end quote. I told him that it was
due to the layout.
Yes, probably due to the layout. I told him that it was my opinion that as long as the pins used and the matrix layout, physical layout, was different from the Planks, to me that is a different PCB. However, if they are the same, that would be some issues with that. At the time, Steve did not know the pins or what the matrix was and had no way to verify or figure them out. I asked him to try and flash current Planck firmware on it, which he was not able to do because the prototypes were not assembled yet, probably hence the need for SMD soldering and talking about it. I reiterated my concern, and for some reason, I don't think I came across as I intended, as Steven started saying how there's no direct regulation preventing him from doing so, and that competition is healthy and OLKB has no competition right now. I totally agreed, but I was left with a feeling that he was not discontent.
Okay, so yeah, that makes more sense, because the Matrix, I guess, wasn't known to Steve, so I'm assuming Gondo...
Only Gondo would have known it at that time, yes.
Okay, yeah, so at this point, with as much as known on Merlin's side for sure, yeah, you don't know what the pins out is going to be. Like, you can say, hey, can I see a schematic? Or, hey, can I see it's different? And yeah, flashing the Planck firmware on there directly and then it working, that's questionable. I do agree.
Yeah.
But if it doesn't work, like if, you hit the Q key and like a K comes out or something, then it's obviously going to be different. But yeah, that's a completely valid thought, I think, when it comes to that, for sure. But yeah,
for sure. So he says, my main arguments regarding the specific matter was that if it's the same firmware usable on two separate PCBs, 1, why maintain 2 sets of code that do the same? 2, why not just get
licensed? Can we stop after each of these points so I can refute?
Okay, so agree? Yeah, 1, why maintain 2 sets of code that do the same?
That's literally what QMK is. Like, go on, look at how many 10 kilo keyboards are on there. Look at how many 60% keyboards are on there. You can compile a list of probably 40 10 keyless boards and say, hey, these all do the exact same thing. These are all 10 keyless keyboards. Why do we have so many different variations?
think he meant the same in terms of the pinouts.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But if the pinout's not the same, same firmware usable on 2 PCBs. That's when I can see. But if it's not, then that's not valid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. 2, why not just get licensing from Jack and do what Massdrop does? I assume this is what Massdrop does.
See, I don't know how Massdrop does their stuff. I'm assuming, yeah, it's some from OLKB and Jack to basically reproduce the stuff. I'm assuming that would be a matter of licensing the PCB themselves to have the exact same PCB made, but that wasn't the goal of his. That he is he's a PhD student for engineering. He wants to make his own. Like the community is very maker oriented. So yeah, you could just throw money and say, hey, I want to use this, but that's not the point. The point was to make your own. That's a little more, I guess.
It's different. Make your own. It's different.
It's a Brazilian guy making a piece that is initially offered to people in Brazil. It's different. It's like the people making the Ivar switch, the Swedish guys that wanted it to look like the Swedish flag. It's a matter of pride for your home and where you are. Mm-hmm. So I don't think licensing would necessarily be the right process for this, especially since it is like just a DIY kit. Maybe if they are on the Massdrop scale and it's like like a micro center or something that like wants to sell OLKB stuff, sure. But if it's a dude that just wants to do a group buy to give people an opportunity to have more PCBs, I don't see that being the right method.
Yeah, for sure. 3, why confuse customers? Think NYM96 and Melody96, which are 2 different boards but share the same firmware. It's under Melody96, by the way.
Yeah, that's the same idea as like the first point. Whereas why have 2 firmware repos that do the same thing? That's valid. I agree with that. But that's like saying the NYM96 uses the Melody 96 PCB. It's the exact same PCB. Yeah. But yeah, there's 2 repos, which is stupid. I agree.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, that's kind of up to the maker and then up to QMK to turn around and say, hey, you submitted a pull request for this. We looked at it. It's the exact same as this other one. Just use the other one.
I feel like
just have your own kind of sub
isn't that QMK's fault then for like not maintaining it?
I wouldn't say it's their fault. I mean, this stuff can be added as it goes. Right. And it could definitely be overlooked. Because I don't think they're going to go and they're going to look at the pin, every single pin mapping and stuff. But yeah, I mean that kind of goes right along with number 1.
Mm-hmm. And then 4, I personally think it would be a very anti-community move to do this.
I mean, if you're using the exact same firmware, yes, but I also don't agree it would be very anti-community. If anything, it would split it out a little bit. But like, and the other question is, what community is it exactly? Is it the mechanical keyboard community as a whole, which is also extremely fragmented? So I don't see that being a thing. Like a lot of people probably wouldn't care. Would it be the OLKB purists who are super big fanboys? Would it be the Brazilian dudes who are buying this in Brazil? Would it be people who are crazy about open source stuff? I mean, that's a really broad statement that doesn't really make sense, I think. Anti-community in the sense of making something with the same layout as something else, I don't see that being a problem. I don't know. That doesn't make sense to me. I don't really agree with that statement.
Yeah.
I kind of see where he's coming from as far as copying like the plank directly, but he's not. So I don't. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So let's see. He says, my main arguments regarding the specific matter was that if it's the same firmware usable on two separate PCBs, it is quite clear to me. Oh, sorry, I'm here now, huh? It's quite clear to me that while I'm arguing from a code maintainability / customer view, Steve A74 was very concerned I was telling him to not compete. That was not my intention. To be fair, I was also having trouble explaining that using different pins and matrix would make the plank firmware not work on it. Thankfully, Gondo, who is the designer of the PCB, reached out to me and we both figured out that my fears were all unsubstantiated. It uses different pins and matrix. I reached out back to Steven and so did Gondo, and that was the end of it. Right? Mm-hmm. Until today.
Yeah. So yeah, it does seem better now. Obviously, his initial fears, which were, not wrong.
So here are Mac Merlin's interpretations on what has transpired and his thoughts. Based on my conversation with Jack earlier, apparently the Shark PCB is similar in the following fashion. 1. Can fit and use screw holes of the plank case. 2. Uses the same feature set as a plank. 3. Uses the same parts as the plank. So let's actually go through these as well. 1 can use this fit and fit and use the same screw holes. Is there an issue with that?
I mean, as he said, they are literally freely available on the site. I don't really see that being a problem because I've also used these for projects in the past that never came to fruition. It was like early stuff, like when I was first trying to design crap. So I don't really see that being a bad thing. I mean, if you're gonna make a PCB that fits in a plank case, like you can either download the STL and 3D print one or buy one from OLKB. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's it. Or you could use them and go and get one made. But if they start doing that, I could see that being a problem.
So how about the second one? Uses the same feature set as the plank. We kind of touched about this earlier. Like, what defines the features of a PCB? What if they both support underglow? What if they both support? Mm-hmm. Like, does that matter? Like, I think at least what has been established earlier by both Mark and Gondo and Steve is a different pinouts. That is definitively true. So does anything else matter to differentiate it as a PCB?
I mean, they're being someone that has probably designed and has put together at least probably 20 to 30 different PCBs. They're all literally the exact same. Like, switch to diode to controller to rotocolumn, whatever. It's, you really can't get crazy with it. Like, unless you start adding stuff in like speakers and like rotary encoders, that kind of stuff. But like at the base of it all, it's a very, very, very simple circuit, simple thing. So saying it uses the same feature set as a plank, I don't agree with that. My HBCP uses the same feature set of a plank, if you think about it, because you hit this key and it sends the key code out and you have RGBs and whatnot. Same idea with Jane V2. This is a little mini flex session, by the way. That you hit a key and it spits it out. Mm-hmm. They all use QMK because I use the HA7A to build this Jane. But like using the same feature set as a plank, I think is a cop out because all those features are built into QMK, and if you want to use them, you can. Like, it's complete optional to anyone building anything. If you want to build something that has a rotary encoder, or 3 rotary encoders, or that has RGB LEDs, you can do that because it's available to you. All you have to do is you have to go into the config file and enable it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is definitely a cop-out kind of feature.
And then I think the third one kind of goes back to the first one. Use the same parts as the plank. Well, so the group by itself was for a PCB and an FR4 bottom and standoffs to screw them together. So as far as I know, those aren't the same parts. Yeah, like what a Contra was, right? So those are all original parts inspired by the open source plank design, right? As far as I know.
Yeah.
Which, as long as they have licensed it correctly, as we've established, it should be okay.
Mm-hmm.
So those are those 3 points. Okay, let's see what.
Yeah. So like with what the same parts is. So like so it comes with the FR4 bottom and some standoffs. So that's like its own kit at that point. But it also kind of gives you the flexibility to go and buy a plank case or download the STL 3D print one and change it to your own. And that's the end user. That's not the dude who's running the group by saying, hey, look, you can buy a plank case. You can buy this and that. Here's the STL to do it so you don't have to buy it. If someone wants to go and do that on their own, they're allowed. I've seen people mill cases out of wood for a one-off kind of.
Yeah.
Using the same parts. Like, are you going to go, hey, use this screws? That's too much like the plank. Like, you can't say that. Like, I don't know. That's questionable. Same parts. Like, so how far does same parts go? Does that go to the same screws? Does that go to the same USB port, the same controller, the same diode? I mean, 4148 diodes are super common. You can use whatever one you want. But, if it uses the exact same controller even, the STM32072 303, F303 or something, even that, I think is iffy because I know of other boards that use it, like the Clue board uses that. I'm pretty sure the exact same controller. So there's only so many you can use. It's literally either an STM or an Atmega at this point with QMK, or an 1890.
Gondo says the only same component was the controller, not even the diodes were the same. They're using the STM32F30 CCT6. Yep. So I don't know.
Yeah. So and that's actually kind of starting to become more of the norm controller used for PCBs. Everyone has been using the Atmega 32U4.
Yep.
I use it for most of my stuff. It gets kind of cramped with a matrix, which is why the STM stuff is really nice. And the STM also has a lot more features, like the MOI speakers they've been using, and the rotary encoder stuff, and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot more features. So I see why people are using it more.
Yeah,
but it's I just don't see the issue with using the same controller.
Mm-hmm.
You can define it in QMK. It's really straightforward.
So let's go through what Mech Merlin thinks of what he believes, Jack's concerns were with those 3. 1. So what if the screw holes and case fit? How many 60% can fit in a poker case? Shall we ban all of them?
Exactly.
Same kind of point we made. 2. So what if it has the same feature set? It's not like we have super complex products here. Things will overlap. My board will type just as well as yours, will RGB just as well as yours, will beep just as well as yours, will have knobs just as well as yours, etc., etc. This is one of the pitfalls of being the first to come up with something and everyone following along. Are they copies?
The thing is if they're not copies, it's someone was like, hey, I want to get a rotary my keyboard through QMK. So they're going to go and they're going to figure it out. And they have 2 options. Well, not really. I guess their first option would be to, 1, never tell anyone about it and only use it at home. Option 2 is to tell someone, hey, I have a rotary encoder on my QMK keyboard now, on my QMK powered keyboard now. I'm going to let other people use it. And then they push it into the main QMK repo so anyone can use it as long as they follow the guidelines. So what? Like, anyone can use a knob. I can't because I don't like knobs. I don't care.
Yeah.
But people that like knobs, if you want to be a knob, be a knob.
If you want to be a knob, be a knob from the man himself.
Yeah, and I won't even necessarily call it a pitfall of being the first to come up with something. If you come up with something, that's awesome. If you don't want to share it, then keep it to yourself and don't tell anyone. As soon as you start telling people, they're going to want it. And then that's when you have to kind of follow through and say, hey, if you want this to, this is an open source code, I need to contribute. If you don't want to do that, then don't tell anyone.
Mm-hmm.
Sit at home with your one-off knob keyboard.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that's they're not copies. You're just taking advantage of the features that are within the firmware,
which is great.
That's fine. Yeah, exactly. It's great. I love seeing all the weird, cool stuff that people come up with.
And Merlin's last retort, this is probably the only point where I'm a little in the gray zone. You use the same parts because maybe you don't want to rewrite all the code to support them. Why is that bad? It's an open source project. That's one of the major benefits. If this was any other board, it wouldn't have been a problem. But the fact that it was done on a Planck-like board is what makes it an issue. It's too similar.
So if they used...
What was the 60%? Is it like
32U4 instead, it wouldn't have mattered? No, I guarantee you they still would have said something about it. You're using the same controller, which is a relatively common controller. Like Scully has published these schematics to use the STM32F303. I have them saved right now. So like, if it's there, why are you going to have to reinvent the wheel and try to do it yourself? You could, but why would you, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like people that are doing this kind of stuff, I mean, for the most part, you know, smart people that are doing it, they don't want to have to reinvent the wheel. They want to be able to use what to them. Mm-hmm. And yeah, of course, you know, certain stuff, yeah, you're going to have to work on yourself and figure out. But if you're just looking to make a quick PCB that you know is going to work, why would you go through the process of all the R&D and trying to figure it out on your own if the steps are already laid out for you?
Yep.
That's how I started. That's how I guarantee you everyone started, was with super basic, like a pro micro base type thing. And then going from that to the controller on the PCB, and then actually reading about electrical engineering and how hard, and going further and further and further.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean.
So carry on with what Mark said, this whole incident is unfortunate and it was not the result I wanted for Steve. I was actually hoping to do a build stream of the Shark while I wore a left Shark outfit on stream. Perhaps I don't understand the situation well enough, but I personally am not convinced that Steve was in the wrong and don't see why the Shark PCB was canceled.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, even Mark's saying like.
So that's half. So that's half what he's saying though, because the next half of his post is his response as the QMK's ambassador. So let's go through this first before we go through his whole opinion. So, Mech Merlin, my response as QMK's community ambassador. Some of you may know me as a YouTuber and Twitch streamer. That is my primary role in the community. I am also the official QMK community ambassador. This role is needed because not everyone in QMK is necessarily an enthusiast or as ingrained in the community as I am. It is conceivable that things valued by the community may simply just not be understood or accurately represented/translated over the primary maintainers of QMK. I know that many people are mad at Jack and mad at QMK. Let me attempt to clarify a few things. OLKB is a company owned and run by Jack Kumbert. QMK is an open source firmware owned by 3 individuals, Jack being one of them. These 3 people are business owners of their own keyboard companies. There are 5 collaborators, of which I am one of them. There are 5 volunteers from all walks of life. All of us have several powers, such as reviewing and merging PRs, those are pull requests, and have several degrees of decision-making clout. Let it be known that I, however, am the most magical and most handsome. I agree, Mark.
I can back that up.
I can back that up. This is done for checks and balances pretty much to help distribute the workload. There are currently over 450 boards supported by QMK, hand wires and revisions included, and each of these boards have their own set of customers. We try our best to support them when people reach out to us. Jack is solely responsible for his company, OLKB, and has full rights to run it as he sees fit. While he is one of the owners of QMK, he does not have the same degree of authority with it. I know that sometimes it looks like QMK OLKB is one and the same. Hell, even the OLKB subreddit is a QMK help channel. As I mentioned above.
And periodic.
Yeah. As I mentioned above, there are a few of us, and we have board meetings, and we actually do talk to each other on a regular basis. Please do not look at this situation and jump to the conclusion that QMK is going to screw us all over. That is something I will not let happen, and if it does, I'm teleporting out of here. QMK is a community-run project. While we are always in need of talented developers, we are equally in need of people who have an idea of how to make QMK a more community-friendly environment. Sadly, sometimes this also means we need people to teach QMK how to make it a community-friendly environment. We are all actively trying to make QMK a much better place. Sure, we make mistakes. Sometimes we even botched up so badly that we have popcorn on Reddit. Please, if you think you have ideas on how to make QMK better, in any definition you can think about, please engage and communicate with us. We could really use the help. Just because we wear the mantle of collaborator or owner, it doesn't mean we know everything. There are many QMK wizards. Not all of them hold positions within QMK, and not all of them wear hats. Also, if you feel like you're not being heard or understood, please approach me. I was specifically onboarded to be a community ambassador because we're not that great with community stuff. I can't promise that everything you should be done with will be done, but I'm here to get people talking and people understanding each other. So there's a lot of...
So that's like super kind of just a review.
Yeah, very...
Explaining his role within OKB.
Yeah.
Not OKB, sorry, QMK.
It's very, very PR-y and doesn't really address this much. The only thing that I think we can really...
Good way to show the other side of it.
Yeah, I think the best things that we can pull out of this is just his clarification of, Jack Humbert, his role as OLKB, and he does and chooses to run his business how he likes, and his power within QMK as one of the 3 owners.
So it's not like Jack is sitting here saying, "Hey, OLKB is telling you not to do this," and it's also not Jack sitting there saying, QMK is telling you not to do this. Especially with QMK, I mean, it's very much a couple people coming together and talking about how to handle it. Whereas, like with us, with the dank Contra, that was him as OLKB.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I think that's the biggest takeaway.
Yeah. So I think next up is going to be the response from Gondo, the PCB designer. He is not the group I runner. He's just the one who worked on the PCB, which Mark has established that it does have a different pinouts than the plank. Same screw measurements though, same spacing, but different pinouts. Okay, guys. So here I am, big wall of text coming. Never have I thought this was going to blow up, but hey. Life has those unfortunate surprises. The post was true in the things that were said. Yes, I made this project aiming for the BR community, and from the start, I've been in contact with Jack. As a matter of fact, he introduced me to QMK people and was always very, very supportive. In fact, he's in acknowledgments of the Shark PCB GitHub page. The QMK guys are awesome. Guys like Scully Days let me use his footprints knowingly, and I hold that in very high regard. McMerlin helped me get some switches. Ishtab and Upaz are always up to helping me. Let me be clear here. Without the QMK people and Jack, Shark would have never been possible. I'm not going to enter into details and about how difficult it is to get stuff in Brazil, yada, yada, yada. All I can say is that whenever you buy something, you end up paying double the price in taxes. So say you bought something worth $100 plus $40 shipping, which it easily can be. The custom tax is 60% of product plus shipping, which in this case amounts to 60% of $140, $84. This plus the fact that PhD students in Brazil are supposed to dedicate 100% of their time to research, meaning that beyond their 40 hours a week into research, he works 20 hours a week and makes the equivalent of $200 a month. There's no way in hell he can buy a plank, and worse, no way he can afford prototypes for his designs. So, he used 3D models of the plank parts in the OLKB parts repo to fix the edges and mounting holes for the Shark PCB. Inspirational wise, that's as far as it goes. All the other features were community driven, like the processor, USB-C connector, and rotary encoder. I never intended to profit from it either. For what it's worth, I never imagined someone would fund it and make a group buy. So out of the blue, Steve came along and funded the prototype, and I thought that was marvelous. We made an IC, received feedback from the community, and thought our product was cool. We did the group buy, and it was at the time we were contacted by a few QMK people, so I decided to contact Jack myself to clear stuff out a bit. When I contacted Jack, I agreed to some of his points. Although the Shark is an original and a community-driven board, it can easily be seen as a plain copy, and I don't want to be the copy wannabe guy. In all honesty, I did not want this to blow up like this. I have always been an open guy about what I'm doing. The design process was even streamed. I said many times in my streams what was going on, so I contacted Steve, and we decided to halt the group buy. Steve was not happy about that, and I understand his points. He funded the group buy, contacted several manufacturers. We even had a friend of his draw early sketches of a custom case for the Shark. We both put our work and effort in this, and particularly for me, this project holds a special place as this is the first Brazilian custom project. This is new to me, and I feel like an asshole. I'm sorry for this debacle. I never intended for things to go this way. Don't apologize, Gondo. He's not at fault. Like,
there's nothing wrong.
There's nothing wrong with you. Did nothing wrong in this situation. This is a.
I don't think so at all.
Yeah.
Honestly, I kind of even think at this point that canceling it was kind of a drastic move to make.
Too drastic.
I don't think it would have necessarily been. I mean, I see why you would have. sure, but I don't know. At this point, I, being me, obviously nothing really matters what I say, but I feel like it's fine. I mean, yeah, I definitely get the whole idea of seen as a copy wannabe guy, but as I've said, the only reason that people really think of, oh, that's a 4x12, just like a plank, is because the plank is pretty ubiquitous in that it being the definitive 4x12 board. But that's okay. It's okay if it is. You're not making a copy or a clone or a knockoff. You're just making your own board on the same layout. Yes, it uses the same cases.
It's compatible with the same case. It doesn't have to use the same case because when you buy that Group 5, it comes with a bottom plate FR4 and it's going to be its own thing.
Yeah, you can download the 3D thing. You can download 3D models. You can edit them. There's nothing wrong with that, in my eyes. Maybe not in everyone's eyes, but I could see people trying to gang up and be like, "Hey, look, you made a copy of a plank. How dare you?" And like trying to pull that whole thing, because I've seen that before. Because the mob mentality in the keyboard community, especially with people that are fanboys and are very into certain products, it's definitely a thing. So I could absolutely 100% see why someone could think that or would worry about that, but like it's okay with that.
It's okay. I think yeah.
It sucks, but like it's what happens when every community gets as big as this is now, and it
cliques always form. Yeah, cliques will always form.
And it turns into echo chambers everywhere. I'm in 8 different echo chambers every day on Discord, and it sucks.
If you want to be in the part
I'm even instant with Huey. They're the worst ones.
Oh yeah, if you want to join the best echo chambers, just join Hiney's Discord or join my Discord. A+ echo chambers. Especially if you want to hear those H87A updates.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like, I mean, I don't see the problem. The problem would be is, yes, if you use the plank as everything, hey, I'm going to use the plank Gerber files. I'm going to reverse engineer the plank, which is like what people in China are doing. That's what the Chinese community is kind of, not the Chinese community. That's the wrong way to put it.
Certain members.
Manufacturers and vendors in China.
Choose to do
reverse engineer things, and that it's not just keyboards; it's everything.
It's life.
Exactly. Yeah, it sucks. And that's definitely something the U.S. is trying to get out of, but that's a whole another can of worms that I'm not trying to open up. But yeah, I don't know. I don't see what this project is doing as being detrimental to the plank itself. If anything, it's like, hey, this is what this is. This is a lower quality version of a better product, which is called the plank. Or not say lower quality, probably, less expensive.
It's an alternative. It's straight up an alternative. Whether it's better or worse is up to the buyer, because for some people see it's a better value, so therefore for them it's a better product, right? It's alternative, which is
look at people that want a Jane V.
Yeah.
They can't get those, so they're gonna go to KVD fans.
The new 8X Mark II.
Exactly, designed by AIO3. My child in the keyboard world, who has surpassed me, because
it's a sick design though.
Yeah, it's real nice. I love it. That dude's insane. He's very good at everything he does. But yeah, it's like, I mean, the alternatives exist literally for this reason. The plank is not obtainable easily for people in Brazil.
Yep.
And I guarantee it's the same kind of idea. It's like, hey, would you rather spend an extra 4 months and $60 for shipping on a product, or would you want it now and pay $15?
Yep.
It makes sense. Yeah, it absolutely makes sense. People that cry about ISO, and that's a shame because that's more of like an MOQ thing.
Yeah.
But still, it's like, yeah. But people are like, why would you pay that much for a keyboard? It's like, one, because I can, and two, because I don't want the cheaper alternatives.
Because I want it, dude.
Yeah, exactly.
I like things.
There's nothing stopping you from going to mechanicalkeyboards.com, maybe besides their in-stock stuff. But buying like one of the old like Philco kind of cases and
you're solid.
Getting a Philco and putting it in. Yeah.
So
like, people,
we've heard
it's an alternative. It's not a clone. It's not a copy. It's not a
And that's our stance about it. But let's hear the other side, because we heard from Gondo, heard from Mark and his back and forth about it, and as well as Steve, the Group Buy runner. So let's listen to me read Jack Humbert's response. I think this is also very important to get the full context, because he is the other side of the puzzle, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so Jack Humbert. So this was captured roughly the same time I got the OP, so it might have been slightly edited since then. It looks like the original text has been removed, but I have this written and think the people have already read the original post to deserve some clarification. This is a bit frustrating to read, and it doesn't really sum up the conversation I had with Gondo last night, in which I only gave honest thoughts on these things as Gondo's request. I've been nothing but supportive of the project in public and private. In Brazil, there are no 40% keyboards available, and he wanted to try out the layout. Unfortunately, due to the abusive taxes of the government, a plank was out of the question, so he set himself up to make his own design of the ortho 40% layout to be distributed in Brazil. Gondo came to me last year and described this issue, and I agreed that this was a pretty cool solution to the problem. I expressed that making the PCB compatible with plank parts would be a neat objective, since I have a lot of my designs on the repo as open source and people could 3D print them to modify to their liking. The concern from this QMK team member, Mark Merlin, was that we were going to copy the plank firmware and flash to the Shark. He's quoting, the firmware itself is absolutely not the issue here. The issue they described, Jack thinks, is that it would be a drop-in replacement for the plank PCB. Let's stop there real quick. Drop-in replacements are not an issue. 60% tray mounts. All the PCBs are drop-in replacements to each other, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like...
Yeah, and pretty much every single one is GH60 mounting, which was defined by the GH60, which is also open source, by the way. You can download all the stuff and have your own made.
Yeah,
or use the mount points for your own boards, which I did, which I have prototypes somewhere. I don't know where. But yeah, it's like everyone my H87A is a PCB for a decent amount of tankless custom keyboards. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that.
The next thing he quotes is quotes, in Jack's words, open source can hurt the community in OLKB. And Jack responds, open source is what makes QMK, LLKB, and other amazing projects possible, and something I'm committed to at my core. To try to distort my words in this way is disingenuous. While it's true that proper open source hardware has some unfortunate consequences with Chinese copies, the Pro Micro being the most prominent example of this, all my CAD work is open source with a pretty permissive license, and I have the Plank THK, which is under GPL3, and has led to the awesome Plaid projects.
Plaid is sick. That's really cool.
It's really sick.
I like it. People that don't know what that is, it's the
exposed
4x12 ortho board, with the exposed diodes and exposed electronics.
Looks amazing. I love the exposed diode look.
Such a cool idea. But yeah, I mean, I agree and disagree with his statement. I definitely agree with it in the fact that if you throw your designs on the online, they're gonna get copied. They're gonna be made. As I said, why would someone go through the trouble of the R&D and stuff when they have a solution presented to them they can literally just use? Like the GH60, the best way to get a GH60 is from AliExpress because they're like $16. Guess where they found that? On the GH60 GitHub repo.
It's right there.
Exactly, it's there. It's anyone can use it. Exactly, it's just there. I mean, that's why people are asking me, hey, can you open source your stuff? I say no, because one, I want to make sure that I'm making it, I'm using it, I'm verifying that it's good. And that's the big idea. That's the big problem, I guess, with what people are thinking, I guess, when it comes to QMK and stuff. It's like, but it still has to conform to stuff to make sure it's verified to be good with QMK.
Yeah.
And like look at, I don't think it's 100% accurate, but like Input Club stuff, they open sourced all their designs. If you look at some of the Massdrop keyboards that have been recently done, they're very, very, very similar. And given their kind of weird relationship, those two, because like Input Club used to run stuff on Massdrop. Like if you look at the designs, like it's kind of like, hey, that looks like an Input Club board, blah blah blah.
That's a whole another can of worms.
Yeah. That's all I'm going to say about that. That's just what I think.
Yeah, no, I feel you.
But then, I mean, I know people that use like the Mech Mini 2, which was also a 4x12 ortho board. Chris Swire says was the best one he's ever used. By the way, I designed that based off of a Chinese PCB that was a 4x12 PCB from like some guy named Bean or something. But he had keyboards for every layout, like the 96, I think that Melody 96 that was mentioned. Pretty sure that's the same PCB. It's the one Donut Cat used with a custom like graphic on it for his relatively ill-fated PC, the FR496, the Budget 96. And the reason why people use these boards for their designs is, one, they don't want to do all the R&D, like I said, and they're easily accessible. You may as well use them.
Yep.
But this guy wanted to go out and make his own 4x12 board instead of, hey, look, here's a Chinese one I can import to Brazil with probably some kind of issues still, but less issues than importing from the US. He said, no, I want to make my own instead. Yep. Which I think is the best thing. Like the coolest thing about this community is that it's literally fueled by the people who make shit.
Yeah.
If people didn't make stuff, people didn't improve stuff, people didn't R&D stuff, then it wouldn't exist for any of us. But yeah, it's like once the stuff's R&D, once you know how to do it, people with, I guess, less time, less effort, less money to do the R&D, yeah, they can use it. Mm-hmm. That's the beauty of the community, is that it's there. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, open source can definitely hurt the community if it's not done properly, like the G860. I mean, it can hurt and help the community.
Yeah.
One, if you want to make a super basic board that's $22, why not just go and buy one that's $18 that does the exact thing? But if you want to use that as a base and, add a rotary encoder or add some extra features, change the layout up, which is a huge thing. And like especially since like split spacebar kits and stuff are really common these days with group buys, like it's good and bad, I guess. Depending on how you're using it and the end user and how they're using it. I guess the intent. I don't know.
For sure. So let's move on to this. The next thing Jack quotes is, the biggest problem from Jack was the shark mounting holes conformed to plank. Jack says, this is wholly inaccurate. He gave his full blessing, for whatever that's worth, for the project to be compatible with plank parts. That's fine. We've ruled that out already as a possible issue thing. The next thing that he quotes is, though we do not view the shark as a copy, LLKB can label it and such, and the word will spread like wildfire. Jack says, I have not and will not do this to any community project, and I'm hesitant to even do this to the Ortho 40% keyboards that were made outside of the community, the ones he's immediately involved with at least. Even with projects that may have direct competition to the plank, he would try to welcome them in the mech keys and the QMK community in any way possible. So, based off this, Jack is saying he has no issues.
Yeah.
So exactly, what's the issue?
I'm assuming both an OLKB and a QMK side.
Yeah, because that's all Jack's response that I have.
Was probably based on Merlin's initial thought, maybe accusation you could call it, of this potentially being a clone or potentially being a copy, potentially being a knockoff before the matrix and stuff was verified to be different. So yeah, like I said,
he seems okay with it, but like seems like it. But as far as we know, from what Steve has said, they do have permission to proceed if they change the PCB.
Yeah, but what does that mean? Like,
we don't know what they have to change. Why would they have to change?
Do they have to change the layout? And I think if it is purely based on the layout, then that's questionable.
Extremely.
Of being like
extremely
barring an alternative.
Yeah, like you can't.
I don't think that's the reason. I don't think that's the whole reasoning behind it. But I mean, if I was a worse person than I am, I could definitely see that being
the reason. No, for sure.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely questionable. And I mean, at the same time, it's like Jack does have a vested interest in this stuff. Yeah,
he has a vested interest in people not making. Yeah,
does this to make money. So his livelihood is, I wouldn't say his livelihood's at stake, because this project is obviously going to be nowhere near as big, nowhere near as accessible, nowhere near as common as a plank, or any of the other projects they do. But if it was, then I could definitely see him being like, hey, chill out. But the fact that he's even supporting this as much as it sounds like he is, it seems like it's fine.
So the last perspective I have to give is Scully Day's response. Scully Days is one of the 3 owners of QMK.
Yeah.
So he's also a really awesome person. He comes to like all the NorCal meetups. I love talking to him.
Him and IPM have talked a decent bit.
Yeah, he's a cool guy. I read his response because he is a representing from QMK. Scully Days. I'm not speaking for Jack or QMK here, but I'd like to present my viewpoints. I feel like the statement is a misrepresentation of what I've seen Jack say on this exact subject. It's not clear in the narrative presented here, but Jack was not the one tossing around language about clones and copying. Jack was asked what his opinion was after someone else raised their own concerns with Gondo. Then Jack's responses were mixed with this other person's concerns in a way that makes it look like they're Jack's concerns. If you ask me, I'm okay with you making a PCB that fits a clueboard case, including screws, and which that is pretty much all the features of my PCB. Of course, I'm going to tell you no. That's me sharing my opinion.
That makes sense. That's valid. I see. Because, I mean, I don't know. Because like that's kind of saying that you own the entity of the clueboard. Yeah. I guess, which is based off of the Leopold FC 660s.
Yep.
I mean, I can kind of see where the point is there, but at the same time, it's like whether or not. Oh yeah, he does go into more.
Yeah, so let's go into more.
No, I don't want you to make the same PCB that I made.
So that's me sharing my opinion. I want you to do something. That's me sharing my opinion of whether or not I want you to do something. If you ask me why I don't open source my boards, I'm going to hem and haw for a while because it's a really complex issue. The fact that someone could clone my PCB without the source, but by and large the companies that make these cheap clones are lazy and won't, that means that open sourcing my PCB design has a lot of potential to hurt me. So I come down to the side of not open sourcing my board. So, would an open source clone of my PCB hurt the community? Of course not. Would it lead to me closing up shop and stop working on QMK? Unfortunately, that outcome is pretty likely. Will that hurt the community? Hard to quantify. But there are definitely a lot of things I've done to contribute to the community over the years. Then he gives his little resume, which is worth going through real quick. SA Legends help.
Scully's done a lot of really good stuff.
Popularized ARM processors, wrote the QMK API from scratch. So, I mean, if you guys use the configurator, you have a lot of things to thank for Scully, by the way.
And this is another good example of like the community versus personal interest.
Yes. He phrases this very well.
Yeah, for sure.
And he ends this with, if I wasn't able to make a living selling keyboards, I would not have the time or resources to do such things, and community would be poor. And it's kind of like what you said, if you don't want people to copy, don't just put it out there. And he chose to not open source the clue board for that reason.
He open sourced the stuff that he implemented, but he didn't upload exactly, the exact way he implemented it. And that's common for open source stuff. You lay the architecture, you lay the groundwork, and then people can use what is available there.
So at least based on what Jack has said and what Scully has said, there's nothing wrong with the firmware. It is a different firmware. We've established that. Jack has said there's nothing wrong with the screw mounting holes or the dimensions or the fact that it's compatible with plank things. So there's no issue, and we're under the assumption that they've done the licensing and given credit appropriately where it is due. What is the issue?
Yeah, it seems like the QMK guys have been on the radar of the project since the start. Really.
So I'm so like I said, that's why I wanted to do this stream, because I'm really confused. What's the issue?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out. I'm trying to think. Like I said, I had a knee-jerk sort of reaction to Merlin's initial reaction.
Yeah, I mean, Merlin's initial reaction was definitely a very knee-jerk reaction, but Merlin clarified it.
I don't blame him for having that reaction, because if someone comes to me and kind of says the same thing for something I've been working on, I'll feel the same way.
Yeah.
Everyone's gonna want to defend what they have a vested interest in.
For sure.
So I get it. It makes sense.
And the last one I have to read is the final OP. And after this, we're going to summarize everything here. This is from Steve, once again, the group I runner. This is the final thing I have to say on this matter. I had a long discussion with Jack from OLKB, so him and I are both on the same page. This incarnation of the PCB is still going to be halted, but we are not going away. Once a design that differentiates even more so than the Shark is developed, we will once again have an Ortho 40 up for grabs. There are certainly things, while not proprietary, that we are choosing to stay away from so as to keep the overlap of functionality to a minimum. Again, as I implied previously, this was our decision to terminate the group buy. Lastly, there may have been some misinterpretation of Jack's opinion on open source projects. To his defense, both he and OLKB/QMK team offer encouragement within the community and to this project specifically, but things can get a little sensitive when similarities show up, but that issue exists in a lot of tech-related projects. So, in the finality, the PCB will be halted in its current state, and Gondo or someone else will have to work on a new PCB. What do they mean by with features, keep the overlap of functionality to a minimum? So that sounds like that is the issue, which I'm confused about how that's the issue.
So what are they going to do? Take features off of the PCB? Which is kind of a detriment to this project itself, because it's like you open Introspect, you open projects, and you say, hey, sorry, we have to take these features away. That's a shame. It sucks. But I mean, if that's what I guess you have to do to differentiate it, to make it still successful, then I mean, I can kind of see that. But at the same time, yeah, it's like if the whole thing they need to do is take features away, that's a shame, because like at this day, a lot of these features are pretty common.
Yeah.
Does the plank have RGB underneath it? I forget.
No, I don't think so. I think it has in switch if you get the RGB light.
Yeah.
Because I play on words for light. Yeah, I'm not sure. I really do think this is very unfortunate for Steve and Gondo, because I'm still trying to figure out like what's the issue. It does not have
RGB, but it has pads to solder RGB.
Okay. Plank does not have RGB underglow, but Shark does, according to Gondo. So that's why I'm still really torn about this. Like, part of me doesn't want to assume the worst, and I can give the worst assumption, which is Jack is purely putting pressure to protect his own business interests, which is a fair point. Valid. Is it a valid point? I mean, it's a point I don't like making just because I know Jack and I think he's a nice guy.
Yeah, I definitely accuse or throw that out there, because I don't think that's the case. I can see why people would think it would be.
Yeah, for sure.
Because people kind of like this exact same thing happened with the Dank. It's like, oh, they're trying to, have the only 4x12 on the market. But, like that's not the case. It's just a couple little,
But the thing is, we don't know what else, right? Like, that's the only thing. I don't know.
And they have had their own private conversations, too.
We don't know, what the whole issue was with it being, that functionality being not different enough. Like, what constitutes too much overlap of functionality, I think, is the last thing that we don't know for this puzzle, which it's really unfortunate, because I think this is going to be a real damper on anyone ever wanting to make alternatives to different boards, which, I mean, maybe, like I said, if I was, a worse person and wanted to go straight to accusations, maybe that's what Jack wants all along, right? To make it harder for people to make 4x12 alternatives. But I don't know. I think Jack's a good guy from all the times I've talked to him. So, like, I doubt that's his MO. But so far, based off of everything that we've eliminated, that's what I'm stuck with until I know how much overlap in functionality is too much overlap in functionality.
Yeah, because as I've said probably 6 times so far, you can only do so much with a keyboard. Like, yeah, you can add more stuff to it. You can change stuff. I mean, there's so much cool stuff that's getting out there now these days. But yeah, it's like, oh, sorry, you can't use this because this other keyboard. That's bad. That's not good. Yeah, it's a firmware. You should be able to use it freely, as long as you obviously, conform to everything they want you to conform to. But if they're saying, hey, you can't use these features of this open source firmware because it's too similar to this other board that uses the same open source firmware while also being compliant as well as this one, like, that's shitty.
Yeah, and that's why I think this whole situation has definitely left at least a sour note in a lot of people's mouth, which is why, a lot of people right now are a bit discontent with QMK, as I've seen around the community. Maybe they haven't had...
It's great.
Yeah, QMK is great.
I use it for all my projects, mainly because it's the best the best option right now.
Yeah, it is. It really is. So it
does have a good bit of a monopoly on firmware.
Yeah.
It's pretty much either this or TMK or
KLL.
Jigon, which people don't really know too much about, or PS2 AVRGB, which people also don't really know too much about.
Yeah.
I'm kind of sad to see Keyhawk, or not Keyhawk, what the hell is it called? The one Spindle was working on.
Oh, I forgot the name. Key Plus.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what happened with him, because he kind of like fell face the earth like a year ago. And I know some people that have like tried to contact him and no one's heard a word.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping everything's okay with him. But yeah, like that, it seemed really promising. But yeah, it just kind of died. I think there might be an effort to revive it. I don't know. That'd be cool if someone decides to.
Yeah. Because otherwise, I think the only other alternative that I know, there's already like you said, you know, as the community gets bigger, everyone forms and carves their own niches out. There's like their own. I know there's a niche for KLL, but it's definitely not like been widespread like QMK or anything. They're kind of like their own bubble of DIY boards and input club / Kono boards. I'll go to the restroom real quick and I'll be right back.
But yeah, it's just questionable. I don't know. Hey, buy H87A. I'm going to use this sponsor spot since Huey's not here. Don't tell him. He. Buy it. Let's go, baby. We gonna get it. We gonna get it this time. We're doing the regular PCB, the 10 keyless. We're doing the thin PCB, which is going to do more flex if you use the right way to do it, which a lot of people don't, but hopefully some might. And then the Alps only version, which I know people like Alps, a little more of a niche market, but it's good, so buy it. Working on our way towards MOQ. We should hit it. I don't see why not. Don't follow that Instagram. That Instagram sucks. I don't use it. LED points for my Orion V3. It's just effort. FR4 plates are coming. I ordered the Jane V2 one. I don't necessarily have the time to do all of them at once. So I will be getting more done as I go. So those will be kind of a rolling stock. Might wait for Huey to come back for me to make my big announcement about myself and my brand. QXP ones will happen when they happen. I'm trying to finish that up too. We'll see. I might just make those open source so you can buy them if you want. Yeah, Huey, I kind of turned this into the Heine show. Talk about my own shit.
That's awesome.
So yeah, I mean, we're getting there. Like I said, I don't even know if I want to stock anything, dude. I don't want to be a vendor anymore. I hate it. I'm retiring. I'm retiring from selling people shit.
You should just design. That's it. Like that's the real way.
I don't even necessarily want to design for other people because I have done a lot of design commissions in the past, both PCBs and cases.
Just be extremely selective.
Yeah, that's my goal. Is I want to be super selective, or like people that have known me since the start. I guess I'm trying to distance myself from keyboards and doing this every day till 2 a.m.
Yeah, it's quite a bit
because it's very taxing at this point, and I want to get into other hobbies like woodworking and or automotive stuff. So yeah, I mean, worst case, I think for like the QXP ones, I'll probably just like toss the files up and say, hey, if you want to use these, use them. Yeah, it doesn't mean that your number one is worth more. Design keyboards are celebrities. Yeah, I've been in talk with some people about doing some commissions, so we'll see. I do want more time to play RuneScape too. I'm playing OSRS.
Ooh, nice.
Dude, I'm real big on that.
Last few of your streams have been, so you got some RuneScape streams going on every now and then.
Yeah, dude. Oh, and I will hopefully be doing a couple more builds maybe. I'm getting a second camera in from my dude. I am me, you are you. He's kind of new. Real good guy though. Yeah, he builds really cool shit. Real high-end kind of stuff. Very knowledgeable for Alps and vintage boards. But he's sending me his old webcam, so I'll have a second camera.
Heck yeah.
So yeah, I'll probably just build keyboards. I probably won't design as much, or design and sell things as much. I'm probably gonna partner with a vendor to do that.
Basically, every person I know who's like become a vendor, or vendors like, yeah, stocking inventory, shipping shit, real pain in the ass.
Yeah, it is. I mean, the shipping isn't too bad because you really like get kind of like rhythm of it, I guess.
Yeah.
And it goes by pretty well. But yeah, I have a full time job. You know, I have a life. I live with my girlfriend. Like we have a fucking cat. You know, like there's stuff I want to do around the house and stuff, and it just takes a lot of time out of doing those things. Which I think I'd rather do.
Yeah.
No offense to people that like my things, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's fun. It's cool. I've met good people. Like I don't plan on being out of the. I will probably just not be selling things. Because yeah, it is a pain in the ass.
That's fair. That's fair. So let's do the final wrap up of the Shark PCB chapter, and hopefully you know we get some more updates that can help alleviate our remaining questions. But it started with a Intersec, went to a group buy, went to accusations of stealing and or copying or this and that, is resolved in a semi-cancellation / revision required of the Shark PCB for reasons we still don't know. Because as far as we know, everything hardware-wise works. Everything firmware-wise checks out. So we're still left with what is the issue for why the Shark PCB folks, you know, both Steve and Gondo, the group I runner and designer, why do they need to have a different PCB, and what does it mean that we can infer that their functionality is overlapping? Like I can't wrap my mind around that, and you know I hope Mac Merlin or Jack can reach out to me to let me know. I don't know if they will, because this is so far as far as I know, as of yesterday was a private conversation and no parts of that private conversation has been shared. I don't suspect it will.
I don't expect
change.
It to be, yeah.
So I guess no one might know until like we get the final version, even though so that's just a big unfortunate part of this whole chapter, because I think that it was fine going through with the Shark PCB. You know, I really wanted that project to go well for Gondo, and it sucks that he hit this roadblock.
Yeah, like I said, yeah, it's definitely a shame. I mean, I'm hoping that these things will be worked out, and it will be successful, because every successful group buy is a good group buy.
Yeah.
And it's super, it's just good. But yeah, I mean, there could be more underlying stuff that we won't know too. Yeah, I just hope it works out. It's definitely, I think, kind of a gray area at this point. I'm sure Merlin will probably PM me at some point.
He'll probably PM
fine.
me too.
I hope so, because he's always a good dude to learn from and discuss these kind of things, because everyone's viewpoint's going to be different.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't really see the issue, but beyond the initial knee-jerk reaction,
at least based off what we see.
Yeah, I like I said, the Brazil group buy still is going on, so I'm hoping that turns out well too. That's fine.
Well, Heine, thank you so much for joining me today, and everyone in chat. Thanks for going. I got a lot of people. Got like over 40 people for most of the stream on a Saturday.
Let's get this to be a recurring thing. I could do this. Let me know your schedule. I'll let you know mine. My people call your people.
Sounds good. Let me know if you guys are watching the VOD or in chat. You know, this is like kind of like one of the new segments I was talking about, the hot swap hot seats. So sometimes I'll have Heine on. There's a few other people I do plan on inviting for different kind of subjects that we'll be talking about. Most likely, if I do it on like some Saturdays, it'll be longer ones like this. But if I do it within my Monday or Wednesday streams, those will be shorter 30-minute segments.
Fake broclax.
Real Legend of
No,
Us.
sorry, they're knockoff. They're not fake. They're not clones. It's an open source image I found on Google.
Well, everyone, feel free to check out Heine's shop and bother him with more orders. Buy more of his shit until he doesn't sell it anymore. So feel free to put that link in the chat. And of course, if you haven't already, followed, subscribed, and all that BS to my stuff, links are down below for everything. Today was kind of an exception to my normal streaming schedule, just because this kind of topic popped up. I really wanted to talk about it before, you know, everyone kind of forgot about it. Jeff, thank you so much for the 100 bits. So, you know, we do hope to have more conversations like this. And, you know, I brought, you know, Heine on, like I said earlier, because he's kind of a good middle ground who actually is knowledgeable about this stuff. I didn't want to, like, straight up just bring, like, Gondo and, like, Jack on at the same time and, like, possibly see a cage match happen on my stream. So, thank you everyone so much for watching and enjoying. Hineybush, thank you once again. Our people will get in contacts. Until next time, everyone, take care. Don't forget, there's Nathan's stream later today as well. So
that should be happening in
45 minutes. 45 minutes to an hour, yeah. So check that out, guys, when you get a chance. Nathan's a pretty cool guy. So, ciao.
See you guys.